between unintentional manslaughter and intentional murder. If someone hits someone with an iron tool and he dies, the one who got hit, the one who did the hitting is a murderer, and the murderer shall be put to death. He receives the death penalty. That's what the Torah says. Rashi says, this is not talking about the unintentional manslaughter that's right next to the rather the intentional murderer. The purpose of mentioning iron is because the courts have to understand when they're trying to judge whether or not it was intentional or accidental. If the weapon that was used is sufficient to commit the murder, was it Colonel Mustard in the library with the candlestick, right? Shene'amar b'chulam asher yamus boy. Like we say with all of them, that which you die with it. It's said that he kamisa stimus bay. Targum explains that this is something that's a sufficiently deadly weapon that it's deadly. But when it comes to iron, you could kill someone even with a pin, a needle, put it through the temple of their skull or through the jugular vein. It could kill them, right? So that's why the Torah doesn't specify that is what is deadly. If Scripture is talking about an unintentional manslaughter, there's another scripture that talks about any type of a stone that is a deadly weapon, and without any witnesses. So we see clearly the scripture is talking about someone who did an intentional murder. So the Heilige Zayid Maharal says, so when we're judging whether or not someone is liable to the death penalty, to capital punishment for murder, he can only be considered to be accidental if he is not using something that is a deadly weapon. But if someone hits someone with a deadly weapon, even by accident, he is liable to the death penalty. You might think that, right? Or at least he's liable to some punishment because he should have been careful with a deadly weapon. So Zela Yitachin, but that's not the case. You don't get a death penalty for an accidental manslaughter. So thus Scripture has to be talking about an intentional death penalty, not unintentional. So what we're saying is, with an intentional murder, it's only if he hits him with something that's a deadly weapon. If he hits him with something that's not normally a deadly weapon, he accidentally kills him. That's because he just wanted to hurt him. Right? He wanted to hurt him. He should be punished for hurting, but he didn't mean to murder him. So why are we not talking about accidental manslaughter? The hug siv b'samach, because it's written in another verse, in verse 23. That anything that's deadly and he dies in it, chayav golos af al gav the sheiko b'davar sharoy lahamis. That verse contradicts this idea that we might have had, that an accidental murderer is always liable to the death penalty if he has a deadly weapon. But here we see that if he hits him with a deadly weapon, he is exiled like an unintentional manslaughter, and he's not executed like an intentional murderer. He only has the exile to the cities of refuge. Because of Mais Yamus, and it says he should surely die. Amazing because of Medaber. Certainly, the scripture there is talking about an intentional murder and not an unintentional manslaughter. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe.